Hey, crew, welcome back to the Skippy Report. On this report, we have the family known as the Oily Travelers, Jamie Bond Gauthier and Joseph Gauthier, and their two little ones, whom I don't know their names.
That's okay. Brantley and Emerson.
Brantley and Emerson just celebrated a birthday, correct?
She sure did, yeah.
So as
Keith.
some of my listeners know, I try to have interesting conversations, and Jamie and I met 2 summers ago on a runway at Pearson International Airport. Well, I guess on the runway, and at an event run by Event Matrix and Jeff McCaig, and we were able to. I wasn't. I was running the hospitality trailer, I think, for the crew, and we were introducing the Genesis cars to the public and to media on a runway when there were planes taking off and landing on perpendicular adjacent runways at Pearson International Airport. Kind of crazy day. And from that,
will be the one and only time you'll be allowed to do that, too.
Exactly. That's right. Yeah, because I know it took Jeff 2 years to get that set up.
Yeah, it was quite the event. It was pretty incredible, actually. And coming from air crew backgrounds, I know we both took one look at the event layout. We were like, holy man, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, for sure. And so from that, we had dinner the night before the event, and Jamie and I were sitting next to each other, and we found out that we both have fifth wheels. And then Jamie told me that her and her family are full-timers. And I thought, you know what, this would be an interesting conversation about what life with a family is like when you're full-time RVing. So we've had some technical issues. It was supposed to go off a little while ago, like within an hour. But where are you guys presently located?
Well, that's a loaded question, Keith.
The Comox Rotary Splash Park in Comox.
And for people who don't know where, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say we're down at the Fisherman's Wharf in Comox currently, out on a little day adventure. But as far as a family unit and our physical location, we are in Cumberland, which isn't too far. It's about a 20-minute drive from Comox.
And so if some of the listeners who aren't familiar with well, I'm going to say there are Canadians who don't know where Comox is. It's on Vancouver Island in the north end.
Correct.
So we've been struggling with getting internet connections and phone connections and all that sort of stuff. So, and then once we got everything all organized, then I had some technical difficulties on my end, but we worked it all out, and here we are sitting down at almost opposite ends of the country, and it's just lunchtime there for you guys. Well, it's mid-afternoon here for me. And you're in pouring rain.
It's lightened up, but yeah, it's been raining for a few days here.
And don't worry about technical difficulties and Wi-Fi and stuff like that. That's something that we're used to because that's probably the biggest struggle of living full-time in an RV.
Right.
It's having that connection, whether it's Wi-Fi, whether it's data. As you can imagine, where we are right now, we have no Wi-Fi. So we're working off of the data of our phone. So you can imagine what kind of plan that we have set up on our phones, which is pretty boosted on steroids.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
We should actually note, though, that's a Canadian struggle, because when we are down in the States during our winters or traveling abroad, even, like it's generally not an issue elsewhere. But for Canada, like you can we had unlimited to go in the winters. And we could be sitting on a beach with the little box, and we had complete Wi-Fi anywhere we went.
Right.
So
well, I know that because when we traveled to Thunder Bay to visit Sean's family, 20 minutes north of Sault Ste. Marie, it's like goodbye cell service. And then 2 hours later, just as you roll into Wawa, you get it. And as you leave Wawa, it's gone. And I was like, so I've kind of thought that when Sean and I are able to get out more, because COVID is what prevented us from getting out more, we might get one of those spots that just in case there's an emergency, because there was someplace I wanted to stay on our way home last fall on Lake Superior, and people expect us to check in when we're traveling, and there was like absolutely no cell service. It was like, oh, okay. And I even did a a 3-point turn with my 41-foot fifth wheel in the middle of the Highway 17 to get back to this spot. Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah. I think the long haul truck drivers would be proud of what I did.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Oh,
so let's get. So what made you guys decide to become full-time RVers, hit the road, and did you have a family when you started that?
Yeah, never look back.
Half of a family.
Yeah, so we've been on the road for 6 years now.
March 26, 2015.
Is when we launched full time.
Yeah.
And we took the better part of a year to lead up to that as far as laying groundwork goes. I think I can speak for both of us with our motives just being to get out there and live, and just explore. We call ourselves gypsy souls because we generally have both always been wired this way.
Right.
We were both air crew for WestJet and traveled for a living. Both of us, veterans at that point. We had been flying for 10 plus years, and we just wanted to continue to do that. We had we bought a condo in Lake Country.
Lake Country, north of Kelowna, between Kelowna and Van Vernon, in British Columbia.
Yep.
Yeah. I still had a home in Muskoka, an Ontario girl.
Yep.
And at that point, WestJet had transitioned from bases to ports, ports to bases. My apologies. And so we kind of had to pick between Calgary, Vancouver, or Toronto.
Right.
At that point, so we sold the condo in Kelowna and moved to Vancouver pretty abruptly. Brantley was under a year old, and we were trying to navigate being new parents, as far as both being working parents, trying to figure out logistically how that was going to happen, whether we would just have handoffs at the airport with a little guy or what.
Right.
And so we didn't see how that was going to work, or I guess it could work, but how does that work well? Do you know what I mean? And maintaining a life balance.
Yeah.
And we had a Westphalia camper, right. The Volkswagen kind of pop top. And here's the kicker: no matter what we did, every chance we got, we were booting around in that thing. So we had an expensive condo in Vancouver, and we were just all over in this little camper.
Right.
Like just exploring.
And it's funny that you say that too, because you know what? When we first started laying the groundwork for us to do what we do with our fifth wheel, it was a Volkswagen Westphalia also. And but then I tried to fit in one. And when you're 6'6", you can't sit in the driver's seat.
I can't.
No, you can't sit very in many places.
Yeah, that's why I don't fly.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that's why you probably aren't a fan of the airplanes.
Well, you know what? I've learned in my limited travel how to pick seats and that sort of stuff. But you know what? Maybe from 30 years of teaching, I do not like the airport experience. It's just way too many people for me.
And I think one of the big points as far as why we chose this life is Jamie and I had both worked in the corporate world or in that type of environment for a very long time. And because when we were younger, we traveled a lot. Like my dad was military, so every 3 or 4 years we were moving to a new army base. Jamie had moved a lot in her lifetime. We know that there's ways of still living a happy life while being on the move and on the go.
Right.
And becoming air crew just obviously added to that, because every person that you're working with on the plane are people with that same mentality of travel, get out there, go see, go meet people, go find new places. And the more we talked about going from Lake Country, the Kelowna area, to Vancouver, as beautiful as Vancouver is, we're not city people.
Right.
We're not people who want to live in that concrete jungle. And like Jamie was saying, every chance we had, we jumped in the Westie and we took off.
Right.
And it came to a head. I still remember the date, August 16th. That would be 2014, when we decided this is what we're going to do.
Yeah, I love the story.
The backstory to this is that Jamie and I drove down from Vancouver. We went to Brownsville, Oregon, try to find that on the map.
Right.
In the middle of a cornfield at a country music festival. And here we are with our little 84 Westie our 1-year-old boy in his playpen, surrounded by these motorhomes and fifth wheels and travel trailers, and they were decked out and ready to party and have a good time. And here we are with our little Westies, listening to country music. And the Sunday night, we went out on the grounds, we checked it out, and that evening we were in the Westie. The bed was laid down. Our boy was asleep. The back door to the Westie was open. Blake Shelton was on stage. Jamie and I are laying down with a cold beer in our hand, look at each other and say, this right here, right now, this is what I want in my life.
Right.
This is where I'm happy right now.
Right.
And she looked at me, she's like, absolutely, me too.
Nice.
So for the rest of that weekend, the rest of the entire drive back, the rest of the following week, all we talked about is like, if this is our happy place, how do we do more of it?
Right.
And that's what kind of kicked off the whole idea of, okay, traveling full time in a motorhome or in a fifth wheel or whatever it's going to be,
right,
is something that we want to try.
Yeah, we had a commitment to a year in the back of our minds. It was like, what's the worst that could happen, right? What's the worst thing that you could possibly, you hate it and you go back to a normal life, or you go rent a condo again or buy another house or
right,
whatever. You can always back up, right? But the theory, like the thinking of us was, let's build a life that we love. Let's chase down some big dreams here. Let's go explore and travel. And we're just big on experiences, right? Like get out there and live and go find whatever it is that you want to find that week.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of people who did use the term crazy.
Right.
A little nuts was another term that we heard, because 6 years ago or 7, when we started talking about it, it's not really something that people were doing with young families. Most people that you see in an RV park were retirees, people who were a little bit older, had a little bit more money, and they just wanted to travel more. And here we are. We had our 1-year-old boy, Jamie, was at that point, what, 5 or 6 months pregnant? I can't do the math right now, but around there.
Yep.
And that's exactly what we thought. It's like, I understand that maybe this is not what looks right for a family according to society.
Yeah.
But it's not about society. It's about Jamie, myself,
yep,
Brantley, and our new girl that was coming along the way. It was about us. It's our hub. It's our core. It's what's important to us, regardless of what other people say about it.
right.
And that's why we looked at all the options. What happens if it goes right? What happens if it goes wrong? And the worst case scenario didn't scare us.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, then try it.
Yeah.
Give it a shot.
Yeah. Yeah. The one guy I was telling you about, where he's got a podcast and he lives out of a van and he builds vans and he sells them. But his first van was a school bus, a little school bus, and he called it the Pursuit. And I can't remember. He's got Anything Anywhere, I think is what it is. And you know what? He's got this 2500 Dodge van. It's all decked out. He's got a trailer. He drove out to Utah. He's based, I think, in Ellicottville, New York. And you know what? His job, he's a professional photographer, so he does a lot of weddings, and he'll work his butt off all year so that he can take the winter off and ski. And he does work at a ski shop in Ellicottville, New York. They have him scheduled for Sundays when he's in town. And
it sounds like the perfect fit.
Yeah, you know, he just took his van and his trailer with 2 motorcycles out to Moab, and his girlfriend flew out because she has a regular corporate job. And you know, they took a week and they were riding their motorcycles through Moab, and then Jessica flew home and Adam, you know, drove his
kept on going.
Yeah, and that's yeah, it's crazy, but you know what? It's like, that's he didn't want to get into. He was in a job and he was like, yeah, this isn't for me, you know, so he wanted to try something else. And yeah, and his big thing is skiing. So
to live differently, right? And the beautiful thing about it that has sort of evolved for us over the years is that once you have that sort of freedom, that time freedom, and financially your cost of living is just easier.
Yes.
Say it that way, right? Like you're not strapped to, you know, having this big house and all these big payments and things like that. I mean, I think what happened for us is we started to dream again. Like we really were able to free ourselves up and like gosh, over 2 years now that I've left flying.
Right.
And been able to, we've been very creative in how we've done it. We take on a lot of wolfing, which is working on organic farms.
Yep.
We do a lot of pet sitting. So we come in and help people that do want to go travel. We'll stay in their homes, take care of their animals. We've done everything from a normal home with a cat to these, a beautiful ranch, taking care of multiple horses and dogs and chickens and you name it.
Right.
Right. And it's great experiences. I mean, obviously our kids are getting a little bit older now.
Yep.
Where we've been so creative with our homeschooling.
Right.
By taking on these different experiences, right?
Exactly. So
it's this is a first for us. This season for us, we're camp hosting.
Right.
So our sort of our whole mindset around it. We ventured to Vancouver Island, with this past year being what it was. We weren't able to go south, so we got to the warmest possible place we could for the winter, and spent the winter on Vancouver Island. And to anyone who's been on Vancouver Island for any length of time, obviously knows that you fall in love. So we're here, and we thought, well, we don't know what this summer is going to look like as far as restrictions go and how traveling might look. So we thought, well, heck, let's hang out here. Us being creative thinkers that we are, we thought, how do we stay here and find a spot that we can be and be cost effective with it all? So we've actually applied to a couple of camp hosts. And so we're camp hosting, which for those that don't know, we're taking care of a campground. We found a very special place that's a nonprofit campground that works with Cumberland Lakes Wilderness Society. And so they are very passionate folks about integrating people back into the wilderness. They do a lot of school programs and a lot of just working in the community, which is beautiful. It speaks to us. And we're plugging away. I mean, again, a first for us, but we've secured a spot where they're all season, and we're actually giving back and helping the community and really enjoying our time. So we've got a spot camp right on the lake.
Yeah, that's rough, eh?
I know, right? It's a tough thing. But
and,
I mean, that kind of speaks to what we were saying, is that, a lot of families require two working parents. Well, I wanted to be home to raise my baby. So in order to do that, we offset our cost of living by finding free places to stay.
Yeah. And I think when you start this lifestyle, the whole idea is obviously to think outside the box.
Yeah.
And to think outside the box, you have to become very creative in where you're going to go, how you're going to go. The less money you spend, then the less money you need to make.
Right.
So we were looking really hard of how do we save money. Obviously, doing camp hosting, we're working security 4 nights a week, and I use the term security very loosely, in exchange for free rent at the campground.
Yes.
Woofing is the exact same thing. You go work on an organic farm, put in 40 or 50 hours, depending on the farm itself, in exchange for free rent on their property.
Right.
And house and pet sitting is the exact same thing. You live in their house rent free in exchange of taking care of their animals in their home, so that the animals are comfortable and staying in their homes instead of going into a kennel.
Right.
So these are all creative ways of not paying rent, therefore you don't have to make as much money.
Yeah, that's like what I'm doing right now. I'm parked in my daughter's driveway because her husband has gone back to work, and we have a granddaughter who's 3 weeks old, and Bronwyn was like, yeah, you guys could come down with the trailer and help me or be there in case I need help while I'm establishing my routine.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's amazing. Yeah. Right? The freedom that you're able to give your time, right? I think that's such a big thing. I think we're realizing with everything that's gone on in the world, one, connection, but also just, giving people your time. It's a beautiful thing. And the experiences that come along with it are such an amazing gift.
Yeah, for sure. I know when you talk about the experiences and all that, I remember I always thought Oregon was all forest. And while I was visiting my friend in Eugene, we were coming east, and we went to Bend because I like craft beer. So there's craft beer breweries there. And then as we were coming east, it's like, this is a desert. And friends of mine said, you know what? In Saskatchewan, you can see your dog run away for 3 days. But in Eastern Oregon, you can see your dog run away for a week. And we were right in the middle of this place. And I told Sean, I said, if there's a pull off, I'd like to spend the night out here. And she kind of like looked at me, but you know what? There was an emergency rest stop because it was an hour back to Burns to get fuel, or 3 hours to someplace, I don't know where it was, to get fuel. And so we pulled over, we dropped the landing gear, got all set up for the night. It was gorgeous. And then Sean says to me, "Are we safe out here?" And I was like, I don't know. I guess that's why some Americans carry guns. But I'm Canadian. I have bear spray and an axe. But then another RV came and a couple of trucks came, and she was all right that there were some other people there. Yeah.
It's some of the most amazing places that we've stumbled upon boondocking.
Yes.
Same thing, right? You take a second and you evaluate, and you're like, "Are we good here?" And then you see one or two other RVs roll up, and you're like, "Oh yeah, no, we're good. We're good."
And you see, I'm on the other spectrum. When I was 12 years old at my cottage in eastern townships of Quebec, well, even before that, I met a friend. We started camping just maybe a couple of 100 yards away from our cottage up on a cliff. And then we graduated the next year to across the lake. And then the third year, he and I got topo maps, and we convinced our parents to drop us off here and pick us up here in 5 days while we kind of backpack through the really old mountains of the Appalachian Range. And and you know, we didn't take a tent. We had our food. We had ground sheets. We had tent flies, and you know, we had some wicked rain, and off we went on an adventure. And I know when I met Sean, I said, "Yeah, I used to camp when I was a kid." And she goes, "Yeah, I camped too." And I was like, "No way." And she's like, "Yeah, we had like a motorhome." I was like, "No, that's traveling. No. That's not camping." Yeah.
I think that's the whole idea of this lifestyle. Is look at the story you're telling from when you were a kid.
Exactly.
And it's still ingrained in you. And the story is so vivid. We're listening to you, and I've got goosebumps.
Right.
And this is what we want. Like, we say it all the time, memories over money.
Exactly.
Like, there's always money to be made. We could be making a lot more. That money will not make us happy.
Right.
But these memories, these travels.
The kids.
We have one of our kids. When we have one of our kids, is like, "Hey, Daddy, do you remember that one time that we were playing in the water?" I'm like, "Okay, well, which time?" Because that's pretty vague.
Yeah.
But the time that we were on the beach, Daddy, and there was nobody on the beach because it was COVID, and it was dead empty, and we could ride our bikes anywhere and everywhere. Like, the kids remember that.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. These incredible memories that we made when we were a kid.
Yeah.
With camping, and everybody had an uncle who played guitar. And we have these nights around a campfire.
Right.
It costs you nothing. You're making s'mores or marshmallows, whatever.
Yeah.
We want to recreate that for us and for our kids because that's what it's about.
Yeah. I know. When I remember, I think it was the second year we were camping, and because we were on this cliff at the cottage, and my buddy played a cornet in the high school band, and we played reveling at 6 o'clock in the morning every morning. And his dad came up a little while later, and he's like, "Where's that goddamn cornet? Give me that thing." Because you could just hear it all along the length of the lake, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So making those memories are so much more important. And I know Sean says she wouldn't have been able to do her job if I didn't have my job, even though I work, I was a regular working stiff. I was a teacher, but I was home when I got home. I was able to get home before my kids got home most of the time. Because we were on early hours. I could even put in an hour and a half worth of coaching and still get home just as they were getting off the bus. And I was there all the time for them. Whenever they were on school holidays, I was on school holidays.
Yeah.
And I thankfully graduated with an honors degree, which put me at the second highest pay category. And I was like, I don't need to go back to school for a while. So I was there for the kids every summer.
It's so great. It's such a, somebody mentioned to me, I don't remember, I think it was before, I don't even know, Brantley was probably under a year old, but they were talking about how you generally have 16 summers.
Right.
You know what I mean? And when you put it in perspective that way, I mean,
that's not a lot.
Let's hope for a whole lot more. Let's hope that the kids love hanging out with us and they want to stick around a whole lot longer than that. But generally speaking, you got 16 summers, and yes, the days are really, really long, but the years are so short.
Right.
I feel like I'm blinking right now. And like you said, Emerson just had her 6th birthday. Right. And yet I'm flooded by these memories of a little baby. You know what I mean? Like she was
Yeah.
constantly in a carrier, in a backpack,
Right.
hiking and biking. And
See, it's
I
kind of
remember being pregnant with her and golfing, and people were like, "What are you doing joining
Right.
a golf club?" And I was like,
right. Yeah, I know that was like
Yeah.
Sean and Braun when she was pregnant with our girls. We still cycled. You know, she was like 6-7 months
Yeah.
pregnant. She's still cycling. She had a special cycling shorts for pregnant women. You know, it's that. Yeah, but you know what? It's funny how you say time just flies. I'm like I'm a different guy. Like time stands still. With some of my friends who are retired, they're like, "It's June already." I was like, "What are you talking about? It's June already." Like when we would have summer holidays at school, it'd be the third week of July, and I felt like I was off for 2 months already.
Oh
Like,
my god.
yeah, time. Yeah, so it's like, yeah, time doesn't stand still for me. Or it doesn't fly. It stands still. It's crazy.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So
I feel like a lot of people maybe this past year, right, with everything, so many people being locked down, I think it's kind of people flip flop. You kind of had camp A and camp B. Some people were like,
Yes.
"Oh my god, the time's going by so fast. I'm so productive," or "I'm so busy." You know, with
yeah.
some other people were like, "Oh man, can we just speed through this whole year and a half and get back to normal?" It's like,
Yeah.
well,
I know I was lucky because we live on the edge of, we live out in the country. I can throw a baseball into the farmer's cornfield from where I live. And I'm still working. My buddy said to me, he goes, this was in the fall of 2019. He says, "I have a project for you." I said, "Okay." He says, "It'll take a year." I was like, "All right." And it's this big 120-year-old farmhouse that I'm redoing. I've redone most of it myself, but we've really slowed down now because it's hard to, with our lockdown here in Ontario, to go and actually look at flooring because you don't want to buy flooring online. You have to go and see it. Yeah. Cabinets are a little different, but yeah, so we've been slowed down a little bit. So I haven't worked much in the last couple of weeks. But he says,
but you posted some pictures there for a while. I was following along with some of the stuff, and it's
Sean's gone back to work because she used to do this. This was communicable disease and control was what she used to do. So they needed her, and so she works out of one of the bedrooms in our house 3 days a week. And
back to work, working, but working from home.
Yes, and she loves it because she's a peon. She's not a manager because she used to run the sexual health department and I don't know whatever communicable diseases there are, like hepatitis and all that sort of stuff. But now she's just a peon, so she's like, yeah, at the end of my day, I just click off and I'm done.
Yep.
Yeah.
But she's dealt with a lot of people who have been very sick, and she's dealt with some people who have been asked to isolate because they've been in close contact and they've lost it. And then she says, "Well, I'm really glad that you're feeling that well because I just got off the phone with a family who are this sick and that, or they've lost this, family member and that sort of stuff." And that really sobers people up when they're on the phone with her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but
hearing an side. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
That was good.
So, I was going to say, so you've pretty much given us the lowdown of how you travel, you get to stay at places. Now, I was kind of interested. So if you're down in, say, Florida, because I remember you said, I think when we were together that one time having dinner, you had been like on an organic farm picking strawberries or something like that in Florida. Now, so I'm trying to figure out if you're based out of Vancouver as a flight crew, I don't know if you were still, I don't think you were still part of flight. Oh, maybe you were. How does that work? Do you have to get back to Vancouver?
How does the what the heck, the what the where?
How did that work?
Yeah, like how do you go from picking strawberries in Florida and then you got like flight crew and then you got to get back to wherever your base is, which is Vancouver, right?
Yeah, at that point, actually, we were based out of Toronto.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We still, Joseph is still based out of Toronto. So if you can imagine, I'll touch on Florida, like where we are right now in Cumberland. He just got called back to work. So he's actually back to work, which is a surprise to us and kind of threw us off a little bit because we didn't expect that to happen till well later in the year. So we took this camp host position, assuming that there were two of us.
Right.
And he got called back, and it was literally like 48 hours notice. And within a week, he was gone to Calgary, back requalifying and training again. So it threw us for a little bit of a curveball, him being back to work right now. But rewind back to when we did our woofing. We were in Fort Myers. That was our Fort Myers one.
Right.
We originally had booked in for a month and stayed for 3.5.
3.5.
Wow.
Fell in love with this place. It really was it was such a great experience. We had 6 families.
6 families, 18 kids.
Wow.
All running around this farm.
Of the 18 kids, 16 of them were 8 and under.
Wow.
They had their little bike gangs and whatnot. But I mean, that was just it. We spent our days learning and helping this organic farm in Fort Myers. And they ran markets and catered to local, really high-end restaurants and things, provide tomatoes and citrus and all kinds of good stuff. And we just kind of integrated right into their lives. And at that point, it was literally commute back. So just would get a shift and fly into Toronto and work for, 4 days and then fly home.
So what's good at that point, though, is that we had a little commuter car at the Toronto airport.
Yes.
Like when somebody will get up in the morning, have their breakfast, get dressed, get in their car, and drive to work to commute, we would do the same thing. But instead of driving to work, I would fly a plane and go back to work. So Jamie would just drop me off at the Fort Myers airport. I would fly to Toronto, get into my little commuter car. We had friends who were 45 minutes away in Whitby who would take me in like a stray dog. And I would work my tail off as hard as I could, being as productive as possible with my hours.
Yes.
And then bring back the commuter car to the airport, get on a flight, and head back home. We're very lucky in the sense that we have a lot of control over our schedule.
Yes.
There are certain airlines where you get your schedule. That's all, good luck, and we'll talk next month.
Right.
Whereas in our case, we get our schedule, and we have an online trade board where I can trade with other flight attendants.
Oh, okay.
Well, if there are shifts that are not lining up properly with how many days I want to be in Canada to do my work,
yes,
I'll trade with somebody who has a shift that makes more sense for me.
Right.
So I was able to trade that around. So if I wanted to leave on the Thursday, I would have a shift that would start on the Friday and finish it on the Monday or the Tuesday, and then I would fly back on the following day.
Okay.
So there was a lot. That was pretty much another job of having this online trade board, and especially when there was 2 of us working. So I would do my schedule and Jamie's schedule, making sure we're working opposite schedule.
Right.
And having time to fly in and fly out and mixing all that together. And it's while we were in Fort Myers that Jamie eventually resigned, which was, I believe, January 13th, right before she was going to requalify for another year.
Right.
And that's just where we stopped it. So at that point, it became a lot easier because there was only one schedule that I had to deal with instead of working with 2 schedules at the same time, nonstop, and which was a full-time job in itself, just dealing with that.
Yeah, I guess so.
That particular woofing experience really changed a lot of things for us. It kind of, prior to that, with both of us working, we weren't offsetting our cost of living as much as we do now. So leading up to that, the couple of years leading up to that experience, we would stay in RV parks, right? So even though the cost of living is much lower, you're still forking out, about $1,000 to $1,500 a month for more almost like resort type RV parks, right?
Yeah.
The kids were super small, and I was on maternity leave a good portion of that leading up to that. So we would stay in, nice parks and stuff, and he would leave and fly. There's times now where I look back and I think, gosh, I'd be in somewhere random in the States with a couple of small babies, making it work.
Yeah.
But that's the beautiful thing, and I'm sure you can attest to this, RV living and RV lifestyle. Like, people are incredible.
Yeah, I've
seen it so many times where, something happens with somebody's RV and you've got 4 guys immediately there to help out, or, wind picks up and somebody's awning takes off and the whole campground is, there to help.
That's true.
It's pretty remarkable. I still have contact with a couple of amazing ladies that I met, when Joseph was working and I was home with the babies. That just come over and check on me. How are you? We'd go for walks together, and we were able to spend time with one of them this past winter because her and her husband were also on Vancouver Island. So we would walk together, and just you build these incredible relationships, and it's so much about the community.
It's interesting because I haven't done it lately, but toured by bicycle, and you want to talk about community and being immersed. You learn the tricks of how to approach somebody for directions. I'd always pick somebody who's out mowing the lawn. or something like that. You know,
Right.
there, yeah, and it's, and you know, I remember this one guy. It's like Stories again, right? He's the, I don't know if you have ever seen Orange County American Chopper, I think it was. Anyways, we ran into a guy who looked like a miniature version of Paul Tootle, and he had this company that had those zero-turn lawnmowers and that sort of stuff. So we came across this construction site, and it's like, oh, man, we're going to have to go way out of our way to get around this construction site. So we pulled into his business. I think he was outside doing something. We talked to him. And he's like, oh, yeah, you could just go straight down there. But you know what? If you want, you could camp here tonight. We got a pond, big, huge pond in the back. You can go for a swim, whatever, you know. It was crazy. And then on the same trip, and I remember this guy, Don Postles. He's on CBS in Buffalo. He does the news, and he was like an ambassador for Camp Good Days, which is for women and children. It's a summer camp for women and children or families that are recovering or going through cancer treatment.
Okay.
And as we were doing the Erie Canal, we came across this group of people in this gigantic, like a voyageur style canoe. And they were fundraising for Camp Good Days. And they like, oh no, pitch your tent over there. Come over and have supper. We've got stuff set up over there. It's just like a hydrant with cold water and some tarps around it. And that was the shower. You know, so yeah, it like, you know, in the bicycle community or hiking or backpacking, there's the same kind of community that a lot of people who are stuck in the city don't experience all these positive experiences.
Yeah.
And I think there is a mindset behind that too, because you could go to any place in the world and you will find the meanest, nastiest, most violent people that you could find on the planet. Or you can go to the exact same places and find the sweetest, most gentle, most loving people you will ever find on the planet. And that's something that we've seen all along. Like when we had the Westie, there's a whole Westie community. I used to ride Jeeps for a long time. There's a whole Jeep community.
Right.
I rode for a long time. Again, a huge community of motorcycle. And you go to RV parks and you have your camper, and it doesn't matter what situation you're in. If you need help, there is always somebody willing to help you out. Doesn't matter what day it is. Doesn't matter if it's pouring rain, if it's snowing, if it's sunny. Somebody will always volunteer to come help you.
I need to go park in an RV park and pull out all my solar stuff. I've had this solar stuff for a couple of years that I've been slowly trying to hook up together, and I was like, oh man, I don't want to do this. I don't want to create a fire. It's just,
I promise you somebody will help you with that.
You'll be set up.
I've been working through it. I felt kind of confident today, and then I couldn't figure out how to do one thing, and I found the guy does solar installs on houses and communities in northern Canada and stuff. And I walked away from there and was like, oh shit, man, I don't know what the hell I'm doing now. It was like, oh man. So I had to call the guy I bought all the equipment from, and it's like, yeah, we'll do this. It's like, okay, I feel better now. It's like,
good.
Yeah, just talk me down a little bit. Talk me down.
Yeah, because like on our rig, we have like a 5,500 watt generator, and we have these really good. We have those Battleborn 100 amp hour batteries, and but I don't want to rely on the generator. I want to have solar, right? So we can go boondocking. Sean and I want to go boondocking or mooch docking or whatever. We don't really, we're really not campground type of people.
Yes.
It's funny how you evolved to that, hey? I think that's, I mean, we're in the same boat now. We're very much looking forward to this winter heading down, and we've gotten to a point where we would prefer to boondock now than be in a campground. So, that's
an evolution. Because when we started, we had a 44-foot fifth wheel toy hauler.
Yeah.
And when you have a big rig like that, you can't just show up to a campground.
Yeah.
You have to book ahead of time.
Yeah.
You have to look for 50 amp. And then eventually you go to something a little bit small. And then you learn along the way, right? And you spend those first few years, especially when you have little kids, you're starting to figure out life with kids. You're trying to figure out a new lifestyle of living in an RV full time. So you have that security blanket of living on a campground.
Yeah.
The more comfortable you become with it, the older your kids get. And the more you're like, okay, I actually don't even want to be at a campground anymore. I want to boondock, or I want to boot around as much as possible and get off the beaten path.
Yes.
That's the whole evolution of the lifestyle.
Exactly. Yeah.
The previous year, so pre-COVID, we actually found ourselves, and we were in Texas when everything kind of came to all of that. Right. We didn't rush back. I mean, some will judge, whatever.
It's March in Canada.
It was March, yeah, and we were in Texas, and we stayed put. We were like, you know what? We're isolating. We're just going about our business. We are safe, but we had less interaction with people where we were than we ever would have if we had come back.
Exactly.
Or rushed back.
Yeah. Traveling, you can be totally self-contained.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And in March, like Joseph's saying, hanging out in an RV in March in Canada wasn't appealing.
Right.
I'm going to be honest. So we just kind of hung tight for a while and just, let it kind of roll itself out. And then, eventually we made our way back to Canada and we did our quarantine. And where were we on? Lake Erie? Yeah, we ended up
Leamington, very close to where he is.
Yeah,
Windsor.
towards the Windsor area.
Yeah.
We were out there. We ended up, again, like travelers and friends, and it ended up being a social media shout out. We ended up finding a beautiful house right on the lake.
Yeah.
And living the lake for a few months. What was supposed to be 2 weeks ended up being 2 months.
2 months.
Right.
But it was great. It's just a great experience, and it's just word of mouth, just knowing people and
getting creative,
chatting with people. And
I know Sean makes fun of me. Like I used to run a national ski organization, and I help out in some other things, and it's basically I can go and ski anywhere in North America and meet up with people that I know personally or either through social media, and yeah, there's always an invite out there. It's like, oh yeah, hey, if you're in this neck of the woods, come by. We'll take you. We'll go skiing, whatever. That sort of stuff. And even through the podcast, I was interviewing this woman, Megan Kelly, and I was telling her about this ski trip we planned. She goes, "Well, if you're in Lake Tahoe, come by. We'll go skiing in Mammoth." Yeah, it's pretty cool. Just for me, like you guys, it's all about the experiences and the opportunities.
The experiences and the connections and the just the life, right? Just talking to people and experiencing all kinds of different ways of life. I think it's very much a sort of a traveling mindset, if that's what you want to call it. But it's just embracing and like saying yes and just
and I think it makes you like well read, whether you've read a book or not. Through experiences.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
And we, people sometimes question what they don't understand. And so we got questions a lot about the homeschooling and that kind of stuff. But yet I think our kids thrive because of that connection with people, right? They don't think twice about having a conversation with an adult.
Yeah.
Hey, how are you today? Or what are you doing over there? Okay. Like they just learn so naturally. They're so inquisitive and they just, they want to, have these experiences as well. It's such a natural thing for them, that we're just, they're learning by life.
Yeah. Well, you know what, I love working with like grade 8 students. Cause like one of the things that we do in our curriculum is probability. And it's like, I'm going to teach them about gambling. So I would teach them about how odds were built, and we would actually do carry out experiments and build odds and that sort of stuff. And then after we figured all this sort of stuff out and had all the odds developed, I said, okay, for the next 2 days, we're going to gamble. You're going to have like $100 hypothetically, and that sort of stuff. And you know what? That was their most favorite lesson, because it would.
I bet.
Yeah, and then and I said, yeah, so now you guys have all lost your money. This person's made some money. The main reason why I did this is to teach you why you should not be gambling. Because the smart kids were like, where's the money go that nobody wins? I was like, oh, that comes to me. And they're like, that's not fair. And I went, no, gambling is a business.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, it's the experiential education is gigantic, right?
I remember having this conversation with you when we had dinner. It was one of the things that we kind of clicked over, chatting about it. And I remember just looking at you being like, man, I think I even said it to you. I would have wanted to be in your class. You know what I mean? Like there's that realness about you that you just.
I could be a jerk sometimes in my class, but I was generally the guy who got the misbehaving 13-year-old boys who were unruly and that sort of stuff. I remember this one kid. He was being a goofball, and he was trying to leave the classroom, and I stood in front of the door, and he was like, okay, we went and sat back down. But you know what? 30 feet away from me was a door out to the schoolyard. He didn't even think about going through that door. And then I pointed it out to him, right? He's like, he looks down, he goes, oh, I'm stupid. Yeah.
But it really is kind of getting to their level in a sense, right? Like I've learned so much, and I feel like teaching the kids is teaching me in a sense. It's very hands on, and it's very get out and experience it. And there's things that I'm learning. I'm like, I didn't know that.
I would have conversations with parents on Meet the Creature night, as I would call it, and they're like, yeah, it is new math. I said, it's not new math. I'm teaching it the way I learned it, and you know what? Pythagorean theorem has not changed in 3,000 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. You just forgot, like. So you're on Vancouver Island until your camp hosting job lasts till the end of the summer?
I think it's October 1st or October 15th.
Okay.
And whenever that happens, we are going to pin and head straight for the sunshine down south. One way or another, we're crossing the border and we're heading to where we've been creating so many memories, whether it's California, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, and Florida.
Right.
Those are places that we love. Utah is just a phenomenal state that I want to go back to.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, we're heading south. Either way, we're going to figure it out. We're heading south.
I did. Sorry, go ahead, Jamie.
I was just saying we've been eyeballing some different alternatives too, if need be. We've looked at various places in Costa Rica and Guatemala, Mexico. Nice. We're kind of getting to the point where we'd like to. Our long-term goal is a lot more international travel as well. So we're working to build multiple income streams where Joseph is able to retire from WestJet, and we can sort of broaden our horizons that way, where we're not coming back to the airport. So we've got a few businesses that we've built, just multiple income streams, right? Like if you've got it coming from various sources, you diversify yourself, and then you're doing A-okay. So some international travel is definitely in the future.
Cool.
We've got coming up. So, and I'm sure we'll continue to incorporate, the pet sitting and the wolfing because we love doing it.
Right. Yeah.
It's a great way to travel. Yeah.
Well, you know what? I have an organic farm just northeast of us, and I give them a hand whenever they're short. People, earlier this year, I spent the morning, we planted 2,000 brassicas, I came home with a couple of bags of fresh vegetables. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's the trade-off too, right? Like the best way I can describe it to people, a lot of people ask me about it. It's like, well, it's very much an energy share.
Yeah.
Like you're giving your time and you're learning, and it kind of goes both ways. There was a beautiful yoga studio in Lake Country that I absolutely adore, and they kind of introduced me to that. It's like an energy share program, right? Where you give a couple of hours to help them out, and in exchange for yoga.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's just there's so many creative ways to explore and learn new things, learn new skills, try something different, and just really.
And at the end of the day, you also can see progress. So one day you might be planting strawberries.
Right.
Later you can see the plant growing. If you are pet sitting, you come in, the animal might be a little bit stressed out because now it's a new person in their house.
Right.
And when the owners come back, the dog stays with you because they just want to hang out with you because they had that connection with you.
Yeah.
Whatever that you're doing, you can see the progress coming along. And that's one thing that I can say that when I was working in the corporate world, I did corporate sales for a very long time. I felt unfulfilled because all I was doing was putting a quota number on a board.
Right.
That I had no real interest in. I didn't care about it. Whereas when I worked in construction or when I worked for FedEx as a driver, I felt at the end of the day like I accomplished something. And that was more fulfilling and more rewarding than any humongous sales month that I had during the corporate world.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that we feel also with this, is that by homeschooling our kids, by being involved in our kids' life a lot, we see the fruits of our labor.
Yeah.
When we're not with them and somebody has our kids and they bring them back after a 4 or 5 hour outing, whatever it may be, and they say, "Oh my God, your kids are so polite."
Yeah.
And at that point, we're sure that they're mistaking our kids for other kids, but apparently it really is our kids.
Yep.
And they're well behaved and they ask questions and they have good manners. It's like, yes, we're doing it right.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I would always be one of the first people when I had students that I didn't have to do anything to motivate them to learn, to behave, or whatever. I would call up that parent and I would say, thank you. And they're like, for what? I said, because you know what? You have made my job easier to teach your child because of the work that you put into your child prior to coming to my classroom. And they're like, really? Like, you know what? They're not like that at home. I was like, well,
you sure know how to make a parent glow, because I feel like that's the most rewarding thing a parent can hear, right? As you know, you've raised your own children, but
yeah,
you really do, right? Feeling that, it's just, when I say it all the time, it is the hardest job we've ever had, by far the most rewarding, but it is a
well, you know what?
run.
I'm glad you said that, because when I would teach sex ed, I told the kids, and my classes were fun. They were like Dr. Phil and Steve Harvey. and I told them, I said, the hardest job you're going to have with your partner is raising children. The second hardest job you're going to have is developing and evolving your relationship with your partner.
Yes.
You know?
Very good advice.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I said, you know what, in this day and age of throw away whatever, the only people who win are the lawyers.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like, oh, let's press the reset button and start all over again. No. You're going to sit down and have a conversation, you know, and work through this.
That balancing act between the two, because they don't necessarily always coincide very well. Just when I have adopted a saying through an oil community or a ULA community that we're a part of, it, if you're not working on your marriage, you're automatically working on your divorce.
Right. Yeah. That's an excellent one. Yes.
Right? Yeah. If you're not, by default, and it's you can't just coast.
No.
You know, because, you know, you don't necessarily see the cracks.
Yeah.
But then before you know it, there's a divide, and balancing the two, you know, parenting and maintaining your relationship, it's work.
Yeah. And you know what, like as you're talking, I'm sitting here listening. Sean and I hadn't hooked up our fifth wheel since October. So before we went up to the farm where we keep it, it's like, okay, remember, we're going to do this. We got to do this, that, and the other thing. And you know what? We were up and gone in 10 minutes. And Sean says, boy, I'm glad that you said something. And, you know, because we have this routine. And if you don't follow that routine, it breaks down and then you have problems, right?
Yeah.
Same with your regular relationship.
100%. We have an ongoing joke. It's like, I'm sorry for what I said when we were parking the fifth wheel.
Right. You know what? I'll send you a picture of my floor mat, because it says sorry for what I said while I was backing up the fifth wheel or something like that. I'll send you a picture of my floor mat. It's the same thing. We don't have that problem, thankfully.
Yeah, watching couples working in a campground right now, watching couples park their trailers or their RVs, you know, says a lot about a relationship.
Exactly. I know I have gotten this rig, because my rig is almost as big as what you had. I don't know what size fifth wheel are you presently in?
We're in a
38 feet.
Right now.
Okay, all right, yeah. So we're 41 foot, and I've gotten in it in some places, and Sean is like, "How'd you do that?" Like there was one place we were going up to Thunder Bay, and in Old Woman Bay, one of the campgrounds, or Pancake Bay, one of the campgrounds says, "Yeah, we could take a 40-foot fifth wheel," and so I drove through. Very gingerly. There was like an inch or two on each side of the trailer as I'm navigating through, and I got out there and I was like, you don't have space for a rig my size. Oh yeah, we do. I said, no, you don't. You know, like thankfully my uncle trained me on the farm backing up hay wagons and that sort of stuff. That was my training to moving this big thing around.
You're moving a big.
Yeah, it's like anything else you learn, right?
You go slow.
Go slow and go,
Yeah, my Sean's cousin, her partner drives one of the biggest, heaviest rigs on the road. He works in the logging industry and trucking in Alberta and BC, and he says, just put everything out of your mind and go as slow as you need to go to get your rig backed into wherever. Never panic or anything like that. So
stop, get out, look around, assess.
Yeah.
Get back in, back up.
Yeah.
Stop, get assess. You can
Exactly.
do that 25 times. It doesn't matter how silly it might look.
Yeah.
If you are not wrecking your rig, you won.
Exactly.
You're winning.
Yeah. Cool.
I would drive the rig, and my mind was my worst enemy. Like I had to learn how to just calm myself and be like, just deal with what's in front of you and around you right in that moment. Because you get yourself into a panic, right? It's a heck of a lot harder to calm yourself down and just ease into it. You can go, Joseph always told me, you can go as slow as you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you have to remember that you're, like in our case, everything we own in this world is hooked up to the truck.
Exactly.
So, and it's something that most people don't deal with because you have stuff in storage or you have your house. This is your weekender. This is your month-long trip.
Right. Yeah.
We do this all the time. So everything we own is with us at all times.
Yes.
So you really want to be careful with your RV because if you wreck it and it has to be repaired, you have nowhere to sleep.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is house. There's another little added pressure there, which is, again, it comes back to go slow. Jamie and I, when we work, we've got a very simple system where we have walkie-talkies.
Yeah.
I say, you let me park. I know how to park this RV. You keep an eye out for high branches or pegs or picnic tables that I might not see because they're in a blind spot.
Right.
And we've never had a problem up to now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like Sean and I. She gets on her cell phone and the truck answers my phone and she just talks me back, watch this, watch that.
Yep.
One of my favorite parking spots was in Sparkling. Oh, it's in Vernon. There's this resort that's a Swarovski Crystal Resort or something like that. It's really high up over Lake Okanagan.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they told me so Jeff told me, drive up here, go see valet parking and they'll tell you where to park. And they said to me, we want you to park where you stopped, but we need you to back in, turn around. I was like, are you kidding me? So I had to go kind of on maybe a 30-degree angle back down this road that was lined with luxury cars and then back up into another parking lot, spin around, and then back up that road and then back into the angle. And so I think that the valets were coming out to help. And then when they saw Sean and what was happening, they just kind of stood around and watched.
Yeah. And you can't take too much guidance.
No.
There's too many people, right? You need to just focus in on one person. Like as much as we love people jumping out, you can't. We've got a story from West Virginia. We ended up.
Virginia.
It was the map just didn't let you know exactly what you were up against, and we ended up with the 44-foot fifth wheel up a dirt. Wasn't a dirt road. It was a gravel road.
No, it wasn't a dirt road. It was a normal road, but it got tighter and tighter and tighter where it was one vehicle at a time. And looking up at the top of the hill because it was a steep angle, there was a truck there, and I waved him down and I said, "Is that a switchback up there?" It's like, actually, it's a double switchback. I'm like, I'm not getting up there, am I? It's like, oh, no, you're not.
Right.
No, you are not, my friend.
Right. I've been in that situation near Barrier, BC, visiting Sean's uncle, and all he said to me was, "Well, your truck has 4-wheel drive, right?" And as I start up this pitch, I'm in second gear, third gear, and as I turn to the right, the pitch gets steeper and the truck shifts gear into first gear and the front wheels unweight. And 300 feet below us with no barrier beside us is I think it's the Fraser River that's there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, and Sean was having a quiet panic attack in the back.
Yes.
Oh, yep.
Yeah.
Been there.
Yeah. So, yeah.
The quiet ones are the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're trying desperately.
However, I was kind of hoping she would be a little more vocal and tell her uncle that, no, we're not going up there, Uncle Frank,
Man, again, those memories, right? They stick out. You're just,
woo!
You sweat buckets for a few minutes, but you find your way out slowly but surely.
Yeah.
You wonder how the heck you ended up there, and then then you've got some great stories to tell later.
For sure. Anyways, you know what? I'm going to thank you guys for spending an hour of time with me, sharing your stories and adventures. And you know what? Maybe we can motivate some people to chase their own dreams and do what you guys are doing.
Yes.
I would hope so. If there's one thing that I can say when we started this lifestyle, we have very, very good friends of ours who had a big ranch, the big log homes, horses, donkeys, like the whole 9 yards. And one of the people who supported us but said, I could never, ever do this lifestyle.
Right.
And funny enough, 6 years afterwards, said, I see how happy you are. I said, and they said, like, we know it's not always rainbows and butterflies, right? We know it's not always that easy.
Yeah.
But I see how incredibly happy you guys are. And now I'm starting to wonder, do you guys have you guys figured it out? Should we be selling our ranch and buying an RV and traveling full time? Because, oh my God, we love seeing you. We love hearing your stories. And you just look freaking happy.
Right.
The ranch is on the market, by the way.
Yeah.
You know what? That's like, I spent some time with my parents while my mother was dying, and they live in a 2-story. And, you know, my dad got a new knee, and the old warriors thought they could lean on each other. And I spent 10 days helping take care of them. And I was like, we got to get out of our 2-story. And, you know what, with lumber prices and land prices, I was like, you know what? Our house doesn't owe us anything. We'll just stay here for a while, and that allow us to bounce between the cottage when we can get into Quebec and our fifth wheel. You know, it's I mean, like you said, it's not for everybody, but it really is a beautiful. And so even if people take the time to think about what it is that they're really after, it's a great experience, even if it's not full time. Like you said, just be bopping around, but the experiences are second to none. Yeah, so. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Keith. We appreciate it. Yeah. And we were super happy to be here and spend the time with you.
Yeah, I know. It's been a while.
We're due for a catch up, aren't we?
Yeah. But not in the South. I'm not going there because, you know what? I'm glad you enjoyed your time in Fort Myers. December 2019, I went to my parents' house for the first time in 30 years, and I don't need to go back.
In Florida?
Yeah, it's too hot, man.
Oh.
See, I like it when it's minus 30.
Yeah, that's true. You like the ski strap. You know what? We had an interesting winter this winter. We got to snowshoe, and you know the kids really haven't spent much time in snow. So
right. Yep.
We were grateful for some of the experiences, but I think we're still going to chase the sunshine.
We're ready.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I don't. As long as it's dry. I hate humidity. Like I'm here in Windsor. It's stupidly humid today. So thankfully the trailer's got air conditioning, and it's a toy hauler like yours. So I'm sitting in the garage. It's my portable studio. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Anyways.
It's a good life.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Keith. You take care. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you, Jamie and Joseph, for sitting down with me to talk about your RV lifestyle and chasing your dreams and staying true to yourself. I just wanted to mention to people where they can find Jamie and Joseph, theoilytravelers.com. They are certified life coaches. You can also find them on Facebook and Instagram at The Oily Travelers. And if you're looking for essential oil stuff, they are essential oil and wellness enthusiasts. So you can always hit them up. Anyways, thanks for joining us on this episode of The Skippy Report, and check back in a little while for the next episode.